Well, hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Question for you today. Have you ever spread yourself too thin when it comes to supersizing and growing your business? I have to laugh because that's almost a rhetorical question. As I was looking into the idiom, the expression, spread yourself too thin, it reminded me, and I thought back on all of the business owners, all the entrepreneurs, all the even corporate executives and people I've worked with and talked to over the decades. And I couldn't think of a single person that had not, at least at some time in their career, and usually when they were talking to me, they were in the midst of it, been spreading themselves way too thin. What does this idiom mean? Where does it come from? Well, it came from somehow, they're not sure exactly when it came into being, but it's from spreading not enough jam or jelly or peanut butter or butter on your sandwich or your bread or your toast. At least that's where they think it came from. It could have come from other places too, but it basically means that you're trying to do too many things at once. Multitasking. Oh, the dreaded multitasking. This is a continuous debate in the circles that I'm in. The women say, yes, you can multitask. You have to be able to multitask. I personally believe that if women couldn't multitask, the human species would cease to exist. Now, as more men are becoming single parents and taking on the household responsibilities, they're finding that they need to figure out how to multitask as well. But men generally, in my experience only, have been the people that say it's not possible to multitask. I actually did an experiment with my kids when they were little. I have a son and a daughter. And as I was, raising them, I would notice that when I asked my son to do something, if I asked him to do one thing, he would go, he'd do it, and then he'd come back. If I asked him to do more than one thing, like even 2 or 3 things, even just 2 things, he would go to do what I had asked him to do, and somehow along the way, he would get lost and distracted. Now, it could be because he's a little ADHD, but it also, I found out that it played out in corporate America as well. When I would direct my direct reports, the people that reported to me, to do the guys could only do really one thing at a time. It was one project at a time, one task at a time. And I know that that's changed over time, and maybe it's just my experience, but it just, I think that literally our brains are wired differently. I think that we, as women, have had to have the ability to multitask, especially as women in corporate America, women in careers, women with jobs. How many women do we know nowadays that are fortunate enough to not have to have a job outside the home? Not very many. They're definitely a small percentage of the population since the Great World Wars. So what does that have to do with spreading yourself too thin? Pretty much all of us are spreading ourselves too thin all the time, primarily because there's so much competing for our time and our attention. So how do we deal with this? And let's not just leave you hanging. Let's talk about 6 or 7 ways to actually deal with the challenge of spreading yourself too thin. Think back to my 30s, and my whole 30s, probably into my 40s, leading up to a culmination of a massive health challenge at 50, was basically running through my life because I was spread way too thin. I was trying to do everything for everybody, be everything for everybody, and spread myself way too thin. And you can do that for a short period of time, and it's important that we have sprints as we're growing and building and supersizing our business. But we have to understand that that sustainable sprint, how long we can do it, is going to be different for each of us. And I highly recommend not figuring out your absolute breaking point and limit. It takes a lot longer to recover from that than if you have your pace and you understand and you push yourself when you need to push, but you don't overdo it and overexert. I guess business, especially growing our business and supersizing our business, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Pieces of it are a sprint, but overall, we're in it for the long run. At least I hope you are. I know I am. So what are some of these ways that you can deal with spreading yourself too thin? Which means, how do you not spread yourself too thin? Number 1, learn to say no. Just absolutely know your limits, set boundaries, know what your boundaries are, and be absolutely okay with saying no to things that aren't important or urgent for you to be participating in. Yeah, there's always more things, and will always be more things in our lives and in our businesses that we would like to do, but are they really moving us toward our end goal? Are they really helping us to get and create what we want, or are they simply distractions or nice to do things? Number 2, make a list. Make a list of the things that are important to you. I guess number 6 on my list was figure out what's important to you, but maybe figure out what's important to you needs to be number 1. Usually is when I'm working with people, hey, you have to decide what's important to you and what your priorities are. So make a list of those things. Make a list of the things that are requiring your attention and that you feel personally responsible for right now, and then analyze that list. Look at that list. Step 3 on this list was to pray over the list. I'd say think about, contemplate, work on your list, whatever is the right wording for you. Look at that list and really decide and analyze what's urgent, what's important, what's necessary, what resources do I need or have to accomplish a thing. How much energy do I have? Do I have energy for everything on my list? I used to have like literally a 400 item to-do list on my computer, and I would just check things off, as I accomplished them, and then I'd add another 10 or 20 things. So my list of 400 that I originally made, it really never dwindled down much below 350 in all of my years in corporate America. And it didn't matter which job or which company or which industry I was in, I always seemed to have that same 400 item list. And it wasn't until I really looked at that list and then categorized it by, I do something called the urine analysis. I know, not a great name, but is it urgent? Is it important? Is it necessary for me to do it? Do I have the resources to do it? Do I have the energy or the effort? How much energy or effort is required for this thing? And that's when I started literally taking things off my list. Number 4, trust your intuition. Trust your gut, your intuition, your discernment, your whatever you call it, whatever that is for you, your inner knowing. Trust that, because sometimes our head and our heart leads us in a direction that feels like it makes sense and it should be, or we think intellectually it makes sense and should be right for us, and we find out that we've got this little niggling feeling that says, no, there's something wrong, there's something not right about this. And when we ignore that niggling feeling, I don't know about you, but every single time I have ignored that. When some things look great on paper and looked like everything was going to be perfect and run smoothly, but I had a bad feeling about it, or some kind of a nagging feeling about it, every single time I listened to my head and my heart and not my intuition, it led me down a very, very bad path on several occasions. It's happened to me enough that I've learned that I have to listen to all 3 things, my head, my heart, and my intuition, or my head, my heart, and my gut, not just one or the other, or it's got to be all 3, or for me, the answer is no, because it's gotten easy to say no. Number 5, keep in mind that you are personally responsible for you and your decisions. You don't have to explain yourself to anybody else. I mean, nobody else on the planet. They can ask you and they can demand an explanation. Your significant other can expect you to explain things, but you don't owe anybody an explanation. Half the time we don't know why we do things. How are we supposed to explain it to other people so that they will understand it, given that they come from a different background, different circumstances, etc. Whenever opportunities arise, whenever they come up, remember to, again, use your intuition and look at each opportunity and say, is this moving me toward what I want, or will this move me away from what I want? Sometimes we don't know and we go for it, but for the most part, we have an idea of whether something, we actually have to believe it's going to move us toward what we want, or the answer should be no, I guess. Number 6, figure out your important things. We talked about that. And number 7, don't overthink it. Don't overthink all of this in our lives. Go with your gut. If it feels like it's for you, you'll get positive feelings. If it's not for you, you'll have some kind of negative feelings, fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, stress. If you're feeling stressed out and freaked out about something on your list, it's probably not the right thing for you to do, at least not right now. So, curious how Spread Yourself Too Thin has shown up in your life and in your experience growing and building your business. Share in the comments below. And I will, of course, be with you tomorrow with another interesting idiom. What does it mean? Where does it come from? If I can find out where it exactly came from and when. I guess I got where, I just don't know when it actually came into being. And how you can use it in your business and maybe even in your life. Doing challenge and change related idioms for the month of August to coincide with the free Get Up and Go challenge. We're doing the Get Up and Go challenge for the 8th time this month. and it's really fun. We're going through each of the areas and aspects of our life, applying this framework that can help guarantee that, and not help, it guarantees you'll have better results after any change or challenge when you use this and after you've gone through the challenge than before. It's really fun. Been doing it since the beginning of COVID. So glad that I found something that has helped me weather all the nonsense and craziness of COVID, as well as thousands and thousands of other people. That's it. Have an awesome day. If I can help you in any way, ask in the comments below. If there's an idiom you're dying to know the origin and the meaning of and how it could be related to building and growing your business, if you have a specific question about growing and building and supersizing your business, always ask. There's no silly question except the one that we don't ask because we never got our answer to it. All right, have an amazing day. I'll, of course, be with you tomorrow.